G'day everyone, welcome to the Outback Packers podcast, the podcast where two mates from all the way across the world have a yarn talking Packers football and the green and gold. I'm Nick Gregory, joined as always by my co-host Iowa Joe, today joined by returning guest, the ever lovely Mike Kawano. Mike, how are you? There's been quite a lot of Packers news over this offseason and since we've last talked, and we're in a very different situation than I think a lot of us envisioned, but how are you?
Doing good. Can't complain. It's been a wild last 48 hours for myself outside of Packers news, but can't complain. Happy to be back on and really appreciate you guys giving me another go at this.
Always welcome. So this episode, we're kind of covering the inside linebacker position throughout the draft, but me and Jay always ask everyone who comes on here, kind of, what are your thoughts on this? Rodgers to Love transition situation. I mean, we're just coming off the back of the interview with Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur. How do you feel about kind of what's going on?
I mean, it's at the he said she's he said in this situation, but I don't really care at this point. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
because we're never going to know who did what or who said what or who's really telling the truth. That's what the books are for afterward. And it really doesn't matter to me. 5 years to the day, whenever Rodgers hangs it up, he's going to be back in Lambeau. I never thought Favre would walk back into Lambeau with Thompson still in the building, and he did. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the Rodgers-Gutekunst relationship is anywhere near as bad as the Favre-Thompson one was rumored to be. So I think when it's all said and done, he'll be back. His name is going to go up on the Ring of Honor. And it's never, breakups are never easy. It's never easy to be told that you're fired, basically. For all intents and purposes, that's what Green Bay is telling Rodgers, is that by saying we're moving on to Jordan Love, is you're not QB1, you're fired for all intents and purposes, and there is no quote unquote good way or best way to do that. So at this point, it's all just kind of, I don't want to say a formality at this point, but it's kind of just, it is what it is at this point, and just ready to move on at this point and see whatever the return package is going to be. So, because that's the thing is, like, it's, people ask, like, what do you think they're going to do in the draft? And it's like, I don't mean it as a cop-out, but it does depend what they get back for Rodgers. Yep. Because in terms of, like, okay, I'm in the belief that they're still in play for something like pick 13, Jermaine Johnson, and some kind of conditional or Jordan Whitehead or something like that. And if you do that, you, unless the board falls a certain way, they're probably not picking an edge in the first round. You're picking a tackle, and who knows, maybe they're free to do different things with the second first round pick kind of thing. So those are the kind of options that it's hard to say what the team could or would do without knowing what they're going to have at their disposal. Even if they say, if it's only pick 42 or they get 42 and 43 back, because I think that one of the new reports I saw is that the pick the Jets got in the Elijah Moore trade is now supposed to be key in the Rodgers negotiations. So
right.
All those kind of things, those are all, that adds a whole bunch of different balls in the air to what Green Bay could hypothetically do in the upcoming draft. So, I mean, it gives them options, and realistically, the draft is how they're going to add talent this year. They might, they still could bring back Mercedes or something like that. Amos still hasn't signed, which makes me think that he's at least entertaining the opportunity to come back to Green Bay. I said it when it was announced that he was visiting Baltimore, because that's his hometown team, and it's like it was the day after that Hollins had re-signed with Green Bay after he had so Amos visited Baltimore on a Friday. Hollins had re-signed the day before on Thursday, and so the day before that, Wednesday, was when Hollins was reportedly visiting the Giants kind of thing. So it's like, okay, like, Amos has the way I take it is Amos has whatever Green Bay is able, willing, whatever you want to call it, to offer him at this point. And now it's up to him, like, okay, like, let me go see if anyone's going to pay me more than, I don't know, let's just say it's $5 million a year kind of thing. And now he's like, okay, Baltimore, Green Bay said they'll pay me $5. Are you going to give me $6 kind of thing and stuff? And I don't think they have, because he didn't turn around and sign with Baltimore kind of thing and stuff. Or so, yeah, it's I do think I do think Green Bay is gonna move to, not, and I hate that too. Is people say, like, the reports are kind of coming up that, oh, they're both sides are looking to resolve this and stuff, and people are saying like, oh, that means Goody is bending the knee. I was like, I don't think that's what it means. I think it just means that both sides understand that it's time to turn the page on this thing, and it's
Well, I
time to
think
quote
what a lot
unquote
of
get
people are
serious.
getting pissed about is Woody Johnson keeps opening his damn mouth.
I
At
love it.
first, well, I know, but I mean, at first it was, well, I'm more than willing to give up 2 first-round draft picks for a proven quarterback. Okay, well, we want to trade you a proven quarterback. Oh, well, I don't want to trade 2 first-round picks now. Okay, so he comes out again. Oh, well, we're all in on Aaron Rodgers. Okay, so, give us this, this, and this. Oh, I don't want to give this and this. Well, then
Yep.
shut your damn mouth about this
It's
shit, because you're just making it worse on yourself.
it really is, like, he is like redoing and redoing Mark Murphy's basketball tournament interview, whereas Mark, like, the Monday after, was like, I've been sworn to secrecy and I can't say anything kind of
Yeah.
thing. Woody, and that, it's fun to joke about what would Green Bay do if they had an owner. And it's like, that's what happens. Owners do whatever the hell they want because
Yeah.
they're the one who signs all the paychecks and stuff. So it's like, if Woody Johnson feels like saying shit, he's gonna say shit kind of thing and stuff. But yeah, I I'm at the point where it doesn't make sense to talk about leverage. I've posted what I think the trade return should and will be. I'll say it. I think what it will be. And if I'm wrong, then so be it, kind of thing at this point. But
Mhm.
it's at the point where talking about who has leverage and what and that's the thing too, is it's like both sides are being so clandestine about what is or isn't on the table kind of thing that it's just funny when it's just easy to tell who's what tinted glasses people are wearing because of how they're shading the conversation about what the potential trade is and all that kind of stuff. The the only thing I'll say at this point is I do find it funny that only one side is playing the, like, they're being unreasonable and they're being, the Green Bay is being unreasonable and unwilling to compromise and blah 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 and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, if they are, then it's like, we know how much Rodgers is worth, and if they're like, it's like there's only so many ways that can play out kind of thing and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those that I don't really care. It's not that I don't care, but it's like I'm just ready for it to be over so that we can talk about what they've got and what they can do, what the next steps are, the requisite steps are after the deal is finalized and stuff like that.
Right, and I think that's the boat that I've been in this whole time was, I understand the situation. I know we finally got, quote unquote, the decision that Rodgers is set to play for the Jets. I get all that, but now I'm ready for the drama to end. Let's go ahead and move on from this stuff. Let's get the draft picks. The only thing is we recently talked to Dan Kotnick, and one of the things that we all said was, we appreciate what Goody's doing because at least he's dug his heels in and said, we're taking this. We know what our quarterback is worth. We know what we should be getting for him. And, had it been some other, GM, I have a feeling they would have buckled weeks ago. Look at what Ted Thompson got for Brett Favre when Brett Favre went in the trade. So
kind of to
at
build
least
off
Goody's,
on that,
yeah.
One of my friends who's also a Packer fan and actually also a Hawkeye, his whole thing was, give me the Gutekunst that drafted Love and didn't tell Rodgers. Don't give me the one that's begging Rodgers to come back in.
Yeah.
Especially after that interview that he gave at the owners' meeting. I picked Jordan Love's Gutekunst back kind of thing and stuff. It was nice to see him show his backbone and kind of be like, the truth is always going to be somewhere in the middle. I'm sure that, the where I'll say the truth is in the middle is that, Green Bay, I don't even want to say they were distruthful in saying it, but they weren't going to say like, we're done with you outright. They were going to always be like, hey, we'll have you back if you want to be back, but make sure kind of thing. And of course, Rodgers could take that as like, oh, they're waiting for me on endlessly kind of thing and stuff. But like I said, that's why I don't care anymore about the he said of it, because
Mhm.
it's just going to keep going in a circle. And like I said, that's what books are for.
Well, I
all
will
said
say
and done,
that
that's what the book is for.
I will say that if I had to believe any of them, it would probably be more Gutekunst than,
Oh,
than
yeah.
Rogers, because Rogers tends to bend the truth to what he wants it to be and not what it actually is. So if I'm going to believe anybody, it's going to be Goody over.
Yeah.
But you're right. They always say, you got this person's story, that person's story, and then what actually happened. So, you're never going to get the truth of it. I don't even think in the book you're really going to get the truth
No.
of it. So, but I mean, yeah, if I'm going to have to say I believe one guy over the other, it's probably Goody a little bit, going back to the
60-40 kind of thing or something like that. Yeah.
going, I was immunized. Okay, so that means you're vaccinated, right? Well, no, I'm not vaccinated. So, yeah. But
They should have
anyway,
pressed me on it kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah,
that
yeah.
whole-
Well, it's all the reporter's fault for not asking me the proper questions,
Yeah.
So if anybody I had to believe, it would be Goody. But I'm getting tired of this Rogers stuff. I know I'm the one that usually asks a question every week, but I'm getting to the point where I'm ready to fly. Well, not fly because I don't fly, but I'm ready to drive up to Green Bay and usher Rogers out the door in a heart myself. I'll bring the U-Haul.
And my last thing on the last thing I have to say on the Rogers thing that I'm really irritated with, like 12 stands, is the whole they owe it to Aaron to just get the trade done and just let him go to New York. I was like, no. The only thing they owe Aaron is the $150 million contract as is right now. That's it. Like that's all that's owed. Like, yeah, the whole like this party owes them, this party owes them. Hey, on that same page, we were owed $50 million level play of quarterback last year, and we didn't get it. So, SOL.
Well, yeah, the Packers don't owe him anything. He doesn't. The only thing that he theoretically could owe the Packers is another Super Bowl title, because they paid him like a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, and they only got one in his whole tenure. So, and I know you can't blame it all on one guy, but yeah, it kind of goes with the play. He should have been playing a little bit better in certain situations, and we wouldn't have that issue.
Yeah.
But like I said, we probably should move on because we got a lot of other things to get to.
Yeah. Just quickly, would you mind just moving your mic a little bit, Mike? Is your breath is going on it? Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, look who's getting picky over mics now. Jeez.
I'm making it easy for you so you don't have to edit it. No, thank you for that.
I'll try not to burp into the mic this time.
Well, I'm just glad he's got clothes on, so we're good.
Oh, what you don't know is this is just a tattoo. Nah, I'm kidding. This is just a full body sleeve.
You just wait. You keep doing that, and I'm going to show up in no clothes.
Oh,
then
God.
we'll see what happens.
Oh, God. It's getting hot in here.
And we've lost Nick.
So, inside linebacker, it's kind of a funny position because, I mean, look, it's, we have Quay who's going to become the number one probably this year. And, we have Devondre still on the contract. He has 2 years left, including this year. Behind him, Isaiah McDuffie. I'm not sure who's behind McDuffie, but it's not anyone super significant, I don't think. There's that.
Basically, at this point, it's Eric Wilson.
That's the one, yeah.
That's
special
what I was
teamer.
trying to think of. Yep.
So really, we're drafting, if we do draft, it's going to be for Devondre's replacement or more depth behind Quaid. I mean, McDuffie made, a few nice kind of steps forward last season, more than I really expected, to be honest. And, I don't think it's necessarily a position of need, but I do kind of expect them to draft a late guy, even just purely for special teams value. This is a class, we kind of mentioned pre-show, the size is kind of lower than what traditionally Green Bay looks for. But, I still think there's a few really, really good prospects, and we'll talk about them soon. But how do you guys feel about the state of the roster when it comes to the inside linebacker?
Well, I would kind of disagree with you. I do think that I always put needs in tiers, and I would say that inside linebacker is probably that second tier. Because
Really?
like you just said, other than McDuffie, there's no real depth there. And, they're going to have to plan for the future anyway. Yeah, Quay's going to be the main guy, but, Devondre, Is he going to be here past, theoretically, and I don't know contract wise if it makes sense, but theoretically he could be gone next year, just
Yep.
depending on how well he plays this year. So he's got 2 years left on the contract, but that doesn't mean he'll be in Green Bay
Oh
for
no,
the 2
absolutely.
years.
I fully expect him to be gone next year.
McDuffie, I was really surprised with McDuffie like you were, and I really like what I saw out of him. I don't think he's going to be an every down type player, but he's going to be that solid rotational depth kind of guy. And Wilson will never be, unless
No,
he
not
takes
at
like
all.
an immediate step in the right direction, he'll never be a starter. He'll just be that depth and special teamer. So I would say that inside linebacker is probably tier 2 when it comes to need. Now, obviously, there's other needs that I would put in tier 1, like safety and tight end and guys and things like that. So, and then of course you got your tier 3, which you're not going to need anything. So, but anyway, inside linebackers, there's a lot of them out there, but like Nick was just saying, we were talking earlier that the sizes just don't seem to fit what Packers want. But I still think, depending on, going back to what Mike said earlier about the Rodgers draft compensation, depending on what they get back for him in trade is going to depend on what they do with their draft pick. So I could see them easily taking a guy 4th round, depending on what they have, and the crazy thing is even though the sizes of these players aren't what the Packers normally look for, this is a deep class for inside linebackers. And the Packers may have to go outside their scope of players to grab one, but there's a lot of athletic backers out there that they could nab to be a depth building piece. So I do. I really do think this could be a need, and I'm not going to say they're going to take one in the first, but if they get like if they have like 3 second round picks, I could see them nabbing a guy that's fallen out of the first round and is right there in the second round.
No, I kind of agree with where you're going with that one, Joe, because yeah, it's so like it's kind of so in the sense of like how people view what the need is. Inside linebacker and edge are sort of in the same boat where it's like you supposedly have your starters, but your depth behind them is a question mark to an extent kind of thing and stuff. But obviously edge is a much more premier position. Plus you add in the fact that like Rashawn's not healthy. Yeah, even if and I do think Rashawn is going to do whatever he has to try and be out there week 1, but just because of what ACL recoveries are, he's not going to be 100% this season. Like the only guy we've seen be basically 100% the year after was Adrian Peterson. And that was like the lone
Jordy.
ACL.
I would probably put Jordy in there too, because look
Even
how
Jordy,
he
it
bounced.
took him half a season to like really kick it
I don't
back
know,
into
because
gear.
he really came back as that comeback player. So I mean, he
Yeah.
wasn't like full force, but he was pretty damn close to it. I would argue.
Yeah, he had a really good season. But yeah, like, so I think and then at inside linebacker, it's like they're more looking for a guy that, they're looking for options in terms of like, we've got our 2 base guys in Dre and Quay. All reports are they really like the strides McDuffie's made. McDuffie follows in the footsteps of guys like Jake Ryan, Blake Martinez, Kamal Martin, guys that they take on day 3 who have upside. And, for multiple reasons, Jake his knee kept blowing up on him. Blake was just going to sign too big of a deal to come back. And Kamal
Blake
was always
didn't really have the speed for him either.
Yeah.
So.
Kamal's one was always kind of weird. I was always shocked he like never really got a chance his second
Yeah.
season kind of thing. Especially because they didn't really have answers at the position. So that was always one. It makes you wonder, like, was there off-field stuff that we didn't hear about kind of thing and stuff?
Well, that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
It always seems like when they're super quiet on the situation, there was some kind of locker room or off the field concerns with them. And it's also kind of funny that you don't see him anywhere else.
Yeah.
Too.
It's kind of like the Kylan Hill one this year where it's like, oh, like that's a guy that everyone was excited for. And then, you had the LaFleur blurb where he was kind of like, we weren't pleased with where he was on the mental side of it. Coming off an injury, we thought he should have been further along, kind of thing and stuff. So, but it seems like McDuffie has, from the looks of it, he did take strides forward in terms of his play recognition, and he's a thumper. And like you guys kind of noted about this year's class, he is a little bit outside of their thresholds where he's a lighter guy. But at the same time, the thing is that Devondre is still listed at 232, which is still on the lighter side for an inside linebacker. So before, like, 5 years ago, I would say definitely there is something to having a 245-pound plus inside linebacker. But I think today, with how much spread offenses are so prevalent in the game, and how much like the Shanahan offenses with a lot of play action, and your linebackers have to be able to just unhitch the trailer and run to space, kind of thing. I think we're in the ripe era where if you're 230 and you're smart and you can tackle, you've got a chance to play linebacker in this league, kind of thing and stuff. So, and that's where, like you guys said, this class is lighter, but they're not necessarily smaller, if that makes sense. So,
Right.
Yeah.
like, for example, one of the guys that I like in this class is Henry To'oto'o from Alabama. He's just that stereotypical, he's in that Jake Ryan, Blake Martinez mold where he's just a heady football player. Maybe not as many splash plays in the passing game as you'd like, but at the same time, that's the thing, is it's like everyone's like, I want Fred Warner impact, or I want Bobby Wagner impact. I was like, I just want someone who's going to make the tackle. Like, expecting your inside
Not 10
linebacker
yards
to run
down the field.
Yeah, expecting your inside linebacker to run routes better than the tight end or running back they're defending is just asking way too much out of a linebacker, kind of thing. That's why we've seen them go to these hybrid, like why Raven Green, why those kind of players were tried to, even Carpenter is another one of those where it's like, is he going to stick at safety, or are they going to move into the nickel dime linebacker? He kind of factors into their inside linebacker depth as well, because we don't know which position they've kind of charted him for in that sense. But yeah, so To'oto'o is like a guy, and even him, you compare him to McDuffie, even they're the same weight. They're both listed 227 at the combine, but To'oto'o, he's got 2-inch longer arms and bigger hands, kind of thing and stuff. So, people are like, okay, what does that translate to? Arm length. That means that you've got more arm length to wrap up and tackle, kind of thing and stuff. And, that was the thing that Ty Summers was a world-class athlete for an inside linebacker, but he had T-Rex arms. And it's like, we're always like, okay, dude, you've got 2 arms, use them. And instead we're just like, nope, there goes 44 bouncing off another tackle, kind of thing and stuff. But that's kind of what I look for in this class, is, like you said, you're looking for just like one reliable trait out of this class, and enough upside in athleticism or spatial awareness or something like that you're like, okay, get this guy in. He's going to be able to play special teams. He's going to be able to be groomed behind Devondre, behind Quay, behind Isaiah, really, because they seem to really like Isaiah in this role. So it's like, it's a guy that he's not expected to play defense week 1. And if he can, that's great, or not great if someone ahead of him is hurt or something like that.
Yeah.
But, being able to, if you get a Chris Barnes situation where you find a guy that you're lucky enough to find a guy that you're like, damn, this guy can play, let's find a way to get him on the field, that's awesome. But it's a position where, you, like Joe said, you're still looking for depth, because the Devondre question. And, basically, if they have to move on from Devondre next year, it's kind of like, okay, you've got Quay, and then we don't know what else the plan is at inside linebacker, kind of thing and stuff. So I think they're like Joe said, it's probably more of like it's going to be another lottery-ish ticket kind of pick, and they're going to, pick to certain, like I said, they're going to look at a guy, they're going to try and look for guys that are like, okay, he does, he might not be great at these 3 things, but we know that his film shows that he's got good awareness, he can read blocks pretty good, and he can tackle well, kind of thing. And from that, can we coach him up to be better in coverage, better as a blitzer, things like that. So, and, it's like, okay, if it works out, great. And if not, it's like, okay, it was a 6th round, 5th, 6th round pick. those, if they don't work out, that's kind of par for the course. So I kind of think that that's sort of the attention that is going to be paid to the position this season.
What's kind of interesting, you just mentioned Toho. His RAS isn't great, but what's knocking him is, obviously his size, but he also had a not great vert, and his shuttle wasn't very great.
Yeah.
And he didn't do bench, and he didn't do 3-cone. So, unless it's like a McDuffie type thing, I don't see them maybe going after him just based off of that. But then again, they've done weirder things. But, and I know I shouldn't be using Raz as the end-all be-all, but, the Packers' history so far under Goody has shown that they want the athletic types, except for tight ends. For some reason, they take the non-athletic tight ends. But
Brian Mafia and I, we joke about that all the time.
Yeah.
Like everyone except for Davis Allen and I forget, there's like one or two more. We're like, nope, they're not drafting him. That's a green card. That's a green card. They're not on the Packers board.
But I mean, the sad thing is he's about the average size of what everybody else in the draft class is. So they're going to have to step out of their comfort zone one way or the other if they're going to take him. Now, they're going to have to do something, whether they find, some vet off the street that's going to take a, minimum contract or what, but they're not going to be able to roll in the season with just, Quay, Devondre, and McDuffie, and, Wilson being there just in case. So, do we want to go ahead and get into prospects, or do we want to, or is there anything else we want to talk about?
Absolutely.
Basically, the only other thing I have to say is it's a good thing they picked Quay last year, and it looks like he's gonna pan out, kind of thing. Because, like that,
as long as he doesn't keep getting kicked out of
like,
games.
Yeah, and I do think he learned from it. Like, what he said after the game was about as good of an apology and an explanation. Like, he didn't point fingers. He basically said, like, nope, I fucked up. I did it twice. Yeah. It's inexcusable. And I was like, you can say, pessimistic people are going to say, oh, what else is he supposed to do? I was like, we've seen a lot of guys say it's like, that guy did this, that guy did that. And it was refreshing to see him own up to the moment and say, like, I messed up, I cost my team, kind of thing and stuff. So,
well, I'm sure he got a pretty good ass chewing out of it too. There's no doubt about that.
And they showed the tunnel shot where he's like, it doesn't take a master's in lip reading to see he's saying, like, why did I do it? What the hell was I thinking, kind of thing and stuff. And so I was like, it was one of those where, like I said, it wasn't great, but as much as we can tell, he's recognized and is gonna hopefully make the corrections moving forward, kind of thing and stuff. And the play on the field, we saw it more and more flashes as the year went on and stuff. So it's definitely a good thing that they picked him last year. As much as I wasn't a fan of the pick, the guy I wanted them to pick I'm hoping he'll be a part of the Rodgers trade package. But it's really a good thing they picked him last year, because they'd be going into this season with question mark, like, because Dre didn't have a great season last year, and so you kind of have question marks about him, and then Isaiah, like, so it's a good thing they did pick Quay last year.
To be fair on Dre, he was there was too much hype for this past year on him because of the type of year he had the year before. So everybody knew, well, not everybody, I suppose. There were people that probably didn't understand it. But anybody who had any kind of sense knew that he wasn't going to be able to replicate the all-pro season he had the year before.
And he was playing better as the year went on. I was just more surprised that it took him like 4 to 6 weeks to really get his legs under him last season. Because
I'm wondering if it was just getting used to having to work with Quay and getting him up to
speed.
Exactly.
I kind of went back and forth with like Sam Holman about it and stuff, and it's hard to tell who's the Mike and who's the Will inside, who's the thumper and who's the runaround guy. You kind of go back and forth, like, oh, Dre probably was more of the Will in 2021 and Barnes was more of the thumper guy, kind of thing. And then this year, Quay is definitely the will. And so it's like, okay, Dre's got to take on more blocks and things like that. So, it's all those kind of things that it's hard for us from, not being in the meeting room, not knowing exactly what assignments are and things like that to say. But the most important thing to me, like I said, is that Dre did turn it around and was making more impactful plays as the season went on, kind of thing and stuff. And
Yeah.
hopefully he's just kind of carries that momentum going. Him and Quay have a better understanding of playing off of each other and stuff. And, they just kind of hit it off from week 1 this year instead.
Well, to kind of transition to our prospects, the only thing that I didn't like about the Quay Walker pick was now we're not going to get Jack Campbell, and that sucks.
Never say never.
Oh God,
Well,
please
my
no.
only
Please
hope,
no.
and I would understand, and it would kind of make me question a little bit, is like I said earlier, that if the Packers end up with like 3 second-round picks, and somehow Campbell falls all the way into the second round to one of them, I could see them pulling the trigger there. But then I would have question marks as to why, because through all the stuff, his gameplay, his athletic ability, all that stuff, he should be a surefire first rounder. There are some question marks here or there about certain things, but he's got the talent, he's got the ability. I don't see why he wouldn't go the first round. Just my eyes, but obviously I don't get paid to do this stuff to watch him.
What I
But
will say is, like, I have more of a day 2 grade on Campbell, but I agree. Like, he's the one that it's like, okay, if every other, like, if you don't like any of the tight ends, any of the receivers, any of the edge rushers, any of the cornerbacks, any of the offensive tackles, I would take him in the second round, with especially if we have 3 picks, kind of thing, because it's like, why not pick the best player, kind of thing and stuff. The thing that you worry about with this class is that, because like you said, it's a deep class, but there aren't many high end prospects, is like guys like a To'o are going to get pushed up. They're going to inorganically get pushed up the board, because it's like, and we see it every year with every position. It's like, well, I've got to make sure I get the top 3 guy, even though he's really more of a round 4 pick. I got to make sure I get him before because there aren't many other options, kind of thing and stuff. So, and it's kind of it's kind of like safety this year, where it's like, should have drafted one last year, kind of thing, because I do think, and I know we did safety. I did safeties with you guys. There are safeties that we definitely like, but it's like, the guys we like are going to take some time. And that's kind of similar to what this inside linebacker class is going to be. Campbell's probably the only plug and play guy right away out of the class, but everyone else is going to take some time. And it's one of those, like, you don't want to be drafting one of those guys to start right away, kind of thing and stuff. So yeah, it's like you said, it's a tier 2 need, but more of like a in grooming kind of need than like a we need this guy to start now, like, potentially what safety is, kind of thing and stuff.
So since Campbell's you got a day 2 grade on him,
Yeah,
who do you have as a day 1 guy inside?
honestly, I just don't have any day 1
Really?
inside linebackers. Yeah, it's just one of those, and I do try to, like, I just try to keep it in terms of, like, I'm not gonna move guys up just because I don't have one, kind of thing.
Right,
and stuff.
yeah,
And
yeah.
with Campbell, his testing did surprise me a little, because I thought he was a little bit more mechanical on film and stuff. He's got great instincts. I love his instincts on film. He sees and reads the field really well. You see he has sideline to sideline range, but I thought sometimes, if he kind of gets going one direction, he's not really getting back the other direction, kind of thing and stuff. It's just, I think, but I do think more of it's more technique cleanup and stuff like that. And that's the thing too, is it's like, Iowa's system is so it's one of the Michigan pods that I listen to. They jokingly but also respectfully call it a PhD in cover 2 and cover 4, and that system is the system, and they run it and run it and run it, and if you can beat it, okay, they're not going to do well against it. But if your quarterback isn't good enough and your O-line can't open up holes against soft boxes, you're going to have a bad day at the office. And I mean, Iowa, like, and Campbell was a big part of it. If you watch the Iowa-Ohio State game from this past season, they gave CJ Stroud and that Ohio State offense a bad time. Like, it was a bend. It's a bend don't break defense because it's too high all the time, but it forces your quarterback to be precise and it forces you to have to run the ball. And Ohio State, it's one of the reasons that I'm not the highest on CJ Stroud. I understand why a lot of people do have a lot of belief, but I kind of point to, like, what gave him a lot of trouble in college? Cover two. What does a lot of the NFL defense? What do a lot of NFL defenses do? Cover two. So, but circling back to Campbell, I just think that he's just a really, really solid football player. And like I said, my whole thing with inside linebackers is you've got to just really, really pop at something, and he's close. Like, it's splitting hairs because it's the whole, like, I would take him top third of round 2 kind of thing. I wouldn't, and like you said, Joe, if someone picks him in the high 20s or the back end of the first round, I'm not gonna complain, especially if they have a need at the position. It's kind of like Kansas City picking Nick Bolton a couple years ago, where you're kind of like, okay, like, I guess kind of thing, but you see how they use Nick Bolton, and it's like, oh yeah, like, shit, that was a really good pick for Kansas City kind of thing and stuff. And it is one of those where, like, I think, if you look at the teams he could go to, like, if Philly took him, like, that would be a really good pick for them kind of thing and stuff. So yeah, it's one of those where, yeah, it's one of those where, like I said, I would feel better about it in the second round, just because I think there's more premier positions, and Campbell doesn't have a super elite trait. Like I said, his testing surprised me, but I wouldn't be like, even if Green Bay traded back, and maybe they traded back a little too far and they missed out on something, like if, like, Murphy, McDonald, the even Nolan Smith are gone, and then, like, Darnell Wright is gone, and you're kind of like, oh, it's more like the day 2 offensive tackle picks and stuff, and, like, they're picking at like 26 or something. Let's say they did like the Jair trade, the New Orleans trade back in 2018, and it's like, okay, we're not going to try and move back up or anything, so we'll just pick who we think is the best player kind of thing and stuff. And so yeah, like I said, I wouldn't hate it. I would get it. I would get it pick kind of thing and stuff. So yeah.
So that's really interesting that you don't have a first round on anybody. I mean, there's very few of them that I would consider first rounders. And I guess everybody could say it's my Iowa bias saying Campbell will be a first rounder. But I even if you take that bias out of there, just what he put on film and just what he put up in for his athletic scores, I just don't see how they can keep him out too much. I mean, the bottom part that I would say that he could fall to is maybe the top of the second round, just based on scores.
And like I said, I think it'll be, where he'll end up going is where need and value are gonna meet pretty good in the middle kind of thing. And whether that's at the back end of the first round or the top of the second round, I think it's gonna be a spot where you're like, that pick makes a lot of sense kind of thing. Green Bay, like you said, it would be a little bit more of a big brain kind of pick and stuff, and it would make more sense if it's after a trade back, and either you trade back and you get more, like, you get that 2018 New Orleans trade, or they're picking with like 42 or 43 or something like that, and they get him kind of because they're just like, yeah, I would take Jack Campbell over a Brian Brom pick this year. So I would happily take that if that scenario were to play out.
Well, I guess, Nick, what do you think about a first round guy? Do you have anybody that you think is first round?
Not at all. This class is too rich with corners, defensive line, edge, literally anything else besides linebacker for me to want to draft it on day one. I do love Jack Campbell, and some of the other guys, I'm like, like Trenton Simpson is a guy I've seen mocked in the first. He's good, but for me, no matter what in this class, I think because of the lack of real top end talent, I think you're always going to have people saying, "Oh, it was overdrafted, blah blah blah, overdrafted." But I just think the value of other positions is just way higher for me to justify drafting a linebacker in the first, and especially in Green Bay when we have Quay already. And I don't think any of these guys would really like add enough to this team for me to really warrant that. Yeah, again, like warrant choosing that over even like a second tier tackle. To be honest, like I just didn't really like the top end of this class heaps.
Well, I guess I got to quit the show then because everybody keeps talking shit about my Hawkeye.
He is very good though. He's so intelligent. I really love Jack Campbell. He's definitely my number one, and he's the only one that I could see getting taken in the first.
Like honestly, he's a guy that if Green Bay somehow got their hands on him, I think they would, that three line, they were kind of going to like almost a 4-3, or they're kind of running like a 3-3-5 nickel look where they had all three of Barnes, Quay, and Campbell on the field at the same time. I think they would do some similar thing. I mean, it would be Campbell and Campbell, but I think you would see some of that going in the early season, just because I think if you take him, he's gonna play because he is just that good of a player. So like I said, they just have more important needs. But I'll put it this way: I would take Jack Campbell before any of the safeties in this class. Like,
yeah, that's no
yeah, like it honestly, I'm like, let's just say like the guy I would probably take earliest is Skinner, just because I do think he has the upside and the athleticism that it's like he has stuff he has to clean up on film, but there's enough athletic upside and flash plays that you're like, okay, like I can project it. Like, it's kind of like, obviously it's not the same because he was at a way smaller school, but it's at least like the Nick Collins pick in 05 kind of thing. Whereas, but any other safety, it's like, I really don't like that pick before round 3 kind of thing. Whereas like, if, I was like, Campbell, okay, it's not the biggest need, but he's gonna play kind of thing and stuff. So it's one of those that it's like, it wouldn't be my first pick, but I'm not gonna hate the pick, if that makes sense. Like, it's all just gonna depend on the board, and I think if Campbell is somehow the Packers pick, it's really gonna define, like, we were talking about what are the Packers thresholds at inside linebacker. If Campbell is somehow the Green Bay second round pick, let's say, that's going to define a lot of what their thresholds are for a lot of other players, kind of thing. Because like, if you see like, like let's say Quentin Johnson somehow falls to 45 kind of thing, he just ran like a really shitty 3-cone kind of thing. And that's like the measurable that Green Bay is like, we don't mess around with that at receiver. We'll kind of go with 4.5 40s or whatever kind of thing and stuff. But 3-cone is the one that we're like, nah, like,
yeah, he's out now.
You're out kind of thing and stuff. So it's like, I don't want to say it definitely signifies that, but it kind of would lend more credence to, okay, yeah, that's their trend, and they really don't like it when you, no matter who you are, they really don't like it when you do that kind of thing and stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas, yeah, it's one of those. So, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting position to watch this year, and that's the thing. Like I said, I think that Gutekunst is definitely going to be looking at the position, but at the same time, it's one of those where I think by the time Green Bay is like kind of looking for, and just because of where the value is in the draft, the like next tier of guys below Campbell are going to be gone because they've, like I said, been inorganically pushed up the board kind of thing and stuff. So, yeah.
Well, how about after, so looking at this kind of, day 2 range, whatever that really means, who are the guys you're kind of looking at in this second tier?
So like I said, I like To'oto'o, but like, yeah, it's hard to say because I don't know where people are going to fall in after.
Right,
because it's really hard to say, because teams that need an inside linebacker, they might say, that guy's in our tier 1 because we like the things he does and we don't care about the things he doesn't do well, kind of thing and stuff. So it's the one thing that, so like Trenton Simpson from Clemson, he's really, the highlights are fun to watch, but the thing with Clemson's defense that it's hard to judge is their guys are very, so like I said, Campbell, he's a read and react player. Like I said, he's orchestrating the second level of that cover 2, cover 4 defense that Iowa runs. Clemson's defense is very much of like, this guy does this job, 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 and that job is the only thing you've got to worry about. So it's like there's not a lot of read and react. And that's why when they've been at their best, their defenses are really good because each guy is just good at taking care of their job. So their defense is a good, solid unit, sometimes a top 10 defensive unit in college football. And so it's hard to construe how that's going to translate to the NFL, where it's like, okay, no, now you've got like 3 things on your dish and you're not just responsible for watching the running back, and like if he goes out on a route, you just follow him. Doesn't matter if it's a play fake and you're voiding a zone or something like that, you just follow him, kind of thing and stuff. So that's the part that it's hard for me to project that. I like like I said, I like the flash plays, but it's one of those that, like I said, I'm glad that I'm not the one having to be like, yeah, I'm going to gamble on that player to become like an all-around player in my defense, kind of thing and stuff. So it's, like I said, it's a lot of guys who are kind of good at a bunch of things, but not necessarily great at anything. And so it is just going to be that like flavor of ice cream kind of player with enough upside in 1 or 2 areas where you're like, I think I can get more, a fringe starter, nickel linebacker kind of thing and stuff like that out of this prospect. Like that's kind of the feel a lot of these players have this year.
Yeah.
There's no like Fred Warner that's kind of lurking around, I guess Campbell could be that Fred Ward kind of player and stuff, but like it's not like someone where you're like, oh, we didn't know just because he went to a small school in Utah State kind of thing or something like that. There's no one that really is like, oh no, he was like really good, we just under scouted him because he went here, kind of thing. These guys are, they have deficiencies and they don't have that one elite trait that you're like, nah, I've got to like really go after this guy this year, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's pretty much what and there's some guys that it's kind of interesting that prior to the season, hang on, did Nick leave?
He's yellow. He's got yellow
We're
light.
both yellow, so
he's offline now.
Uh-oh. What the hell, Nick?
Oh no.
You're fired. He said his internet dropped. Come on, Nick. Jeez, Nick. Here, I'll use my new soundboard.
What the hell's going on out here?
That's the fitting one. But yeah, like you guys were kind of pointing out, this class is small. Like it's a lot of guys who can run around in space and stuff like that. Like even probably the guy that is like in the same, I have sort of in the same range as To'o is Henley from Washington State. I just like how he plays in space and stuff. But even that, it's a projection and all kind of things. So it is just like, and like I said, I'm okay with any of these guys on day 3 because it's like, if he pans out, great. If he doesn't, oh well, it's a day 3 pick kind of thing and stuff. But
welcome back, Nick. Way to go. Jeez. Start calling you Jimmy Jr. Okay. We just stopped. We were making fun of you most of the time. So I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Well, what's kind of interesting is the some of the guys that were talked about as being, first round guys and top level guys aren't really there anymore. Because I remember like way too early mock drafts that Noah Sewell was going to be like a top first round pick, top 10 pick. And now you don't see him being talked about hardly anywhere. Hell, in our show notes, Nick has him as a day 3 prospect. So that just, it's amazing. And he's about the only one that I saw out of all of them that would have been relatively sized for the Packer defense. I mean, he was a little bit heavier than normal, but, he probably fit more as an edge rusher than an inside linebacker. But just to see some of those guys fall from grace like that is just crazy. But day 2, guys, and it's hard for me because, like I always say in these episodes, I can't put a grade, a round grade on these guys, just because, like Mike kind of mentioned earlier, with the way this class is, some guys are going to be pushed higher and some guys are going to fall lower than what we're expecting just because of needs and everything. I think we were just talking about the kid from Clemson, Simpson, and I there were things to like about him, but there were things that kind of just didn't. I mean, he had a smooth back pedal, but then his side to side work was a little clunky. And, he didn't rush very well, but he was decent in coverage. So, and I wasn't a big fan of his tackling. He seemed to try to arm tackle or leg tackle a little too much, and he tended to guess too often. So, I mean, there's things to like about it because obviously he's athletic. His RAS score was a 9.86, so he's one of the top RAS guys. But I mean, like I said, there's things to like and there's things not to like. To where I could see him going in the second round just because based off athleticism, but because some of the things that I was just talking about, I could see him falling into the 5th round or something like that. Another guy is the kid from Auburn, Owen Papo, or however you pronounce his last name. He's a small guy, but he was good in coverage. And then he was a great tackler, but then again, he wasn't much of a rusher because of his size. He was getting swallowed up by offensive linemen and stuff like that. But he's another one like Sewell that early on I was seeing him as possibly a 1st or 2nd round pick. So it's crazy how this stuff happens. But I was trying to look through my notes. There was one guy that I did really like. Well, actually, I got 2, but one of them I can't pronounce his last name too well. Anthony Orgy.
Orgy.
Okay, well that makes it on my top names list.
I only know because his brother was a freshman at Michigan this year. The Vanderbilt
really?
kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. His brother's a quarterback.
But he had good speed. He tracked the ball well. He got skinny through the gap. His back pedal wasn't the smoothest, but he was really explosive. Not much on long speed, but he had quickness to him. A little bit smaller, but that's the problem we're seeing with all the rest of them. And he has tackling ability, but he needed to work on his technique a little bit more. And then the other one was the kid from Texas, Demarion Overshone. He was kind of the same way, but he was taller, but he was a little bit light for his height. Good speed, quick and explosive. He was able to shoot the gap. Coverage looks good. Tracks ball well, and he was a solid edge setter. So he out of all of them, probably mid rounds, I could see fitting the Packers more than any of the rest of them. But those are my day 2 type guys. I mean, you could probably throw Sewell in there, but I'll go by Nick's list and have him as a day 3 guy. But again, I think Sewell will probably be a better edge than he will be an inside guy. Who'd he play for?
Cincy. Oh yeah, he does have short arms. 30 and a quarter.
Ooh. Well, just looking at his size, there's even a possibility he could go undrafted because this guy's a little pocket rocket. He only measured in at 5'10" at the combine. And I don't know. There's going to be a lot of guys that are going to go ahead of him. I'm not saying he's definitely undrafted, but 5'10" is a little scary. I mean, he's built solid. He's weighed in at 231, so that's no issue. But his shuttle and his 3-cone and his 10-yard split were a little shaky. His overall RAS is a 5.6.
That's better than DJ Smith, who we picked out of Appalachian State in 2011. I never.
Yeah, I'm just not feeling too inspired by a lot of this class. And yeah, as Mike's been saying the whole episode, it's just, you need to find someone who does one thing good or has one use to your team, and you just kind of run with that and see how you can work with that. ask them to do things that they're not good at.
Well, my homerism is going to step in again here because there is a guy that we could probably take, and I'm going to say he's probably going to go in the high day 3, and that's Jack Campbell's partner, Seth Benson. He seemed to be really close to what Jack Campbell is, but he didn't. It's hard to go by athletic skills because he didn't go to the combine. So he doesn't have the testing, and I don't think Iowa has run their pro day yet. I think it's coming up, but I don't think they've done it.
They're always
yet.
late. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what he does at the pro day. But it's I saw a lot of the same things with him that I saw with Campbell. Side to side, rush ability, decent coverage. I think he's a little bit smaller than Jack Campbell is. And, obviously he's not as smooth as what Campbell showed. So he's definitely a project, but I think he could be somebody that could step in and fill a role if he's called upon. And like I said, I could see him, depending on what the board lands at for the rest of the inside linebackers, he could go 4th round, but I could also see him going 5th or 6th round just because I don't think he's as polished as what a Jack Campbell is. But yeah, that's my homerism. I could see the Packers taking him just because he's the thing about Iowa is you're not going to get a guy out of Iowa that can't tackle. They're all going to have the ability to tackle and to pick apart a play and know what's going on. Yeah, you could probably throw in the outlier that Josh Jackson, but I think a lot of that was just he got screwed up with scheme and just could never pick it up in the NFL like he could in college. But, you're not going to get a bad defensive player from Iowa. They're either going to be a special teamer or they're going to be a solid backup or whatever, but you're going to get on the defense side. The offensive side, it's a crapshoot. But
Tyler Goodson.
Well, no, I love Goodson, but I always said that he needed to go back to school because he didn't show enough in his junior year to warrant him getting taken in the draft, and obviously he wasn't taken in the draft. It's good that he got picked up, and I'm happy about it, but I think he needed to go back another year and get his skill set fixed. But I mean, not all offensive linemen that come out of Iowa are going to be great. I mean, you're going to have, for every Brian Bulaga, you're going to have a Robert Gallery and, kind of thing. The last decent quarterback to come out of Iowa, maybe you could say CJ Beathard. But, that's
CJ
even kind of pushing. And really, wide receiver-wise, they don't produce much in the NFL.
Dwight.
So the defensive side, the Parkers have always had a great defense at Iowa, and they've always produced quality players for the NFL. So,
yeah, in terms of Green Bay, if they're at all picking an inside linebacker this year, the baseline is, can you beat Wilson out for that inside linebacker 4 spot, basically. That's the baseline of what they're looking for in a prospect. And like I said, they'll throw especially a late day 3 pick at that all day long to see if...
Are we getting bombed? Well, I don't know. Kawano is in Hawaii.
It's not December.
I have no idea.
I know my people operate in secrecy, but it's not December. The Pacific Fleet is not here. It's not even RimPack.
I have no idea what the hell that was. Sorry, guys.
It was an airplane. Who was getting bombed? I know it wasn't here in Iowa. I'm not even near an airport.
The chemtrails, bro. The chemtrails.
Uh-oh. Nick's getting his aluminum foil hat out. His tinfoil hat. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Next time, don't let the plane through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Speaking of, so getting into like the late round kind of guys. I mean, yeah, like you're really kind of looking at just like the special teams and that kind of thing, right? I mean, like it's funny because I think I didn't expect Eric Wilson to actually come back, but he's one of those core special teamers. I mean, for how much you care about it, he was PFS number one graded special teamer at the time that he played. So I guess this guy's back.
Nick's getting bombed. This is awesome.
This is great television.
Sorry, guys.
Wave off. Not today.
These ones.
Who's mad at Australia that they're sending the bombers in?
No idea. And
The Kiwis.
we have the Grand Prix on at the moment, so maybe that's related to that. I live like a 5-minute walk away from where the Grand Prix is being held.
Okay, that would make sense. That
That
does
would make
sound
a lot
like
of
kind of
sense.
a car now.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, I really liked Drake Thomas as kind of an addition to the special teams room. The only thing is, I'm not sure kind of how much they're really looking for that because, like you said, Mike, they're kind of looking for a guy who can actually like play on the team. Because the thing with Drake Thomas, he's more of like a hitter than a tackler. He's got those like tiny T-Rex arms. I like what I saw from him. Obviously, he has a pretty limited role as kind of that like downhill guy or whatever you want to say. But so like he's not going to be a very reliable tackler, I don't think. But as kind of like a body to kind of fill out the roster and just like primarily special teams things, I kind of liked what he offered. When you get to the late rounds, it's just like it's pretty dry, especially at linebacker. I mean, where are we at on Noah Sewell? I haven't written down as a day 3 here, or whatever, but because I feel like he's one of the most kind of like divisive prospects. I think I've seen him like it's such a wide spectrum of kind of grades and rankings. Where are you guys at on Noah Sewell?
Like I said earlier, I think he is more. I think he's going to survive more as an edge rusher than he is going to as a inside guy. Just because what I was seeing out of him on
He's
the
a
tape
forward
that I
player.
watched.
He's a player who goes better forward than in reverse kind of thing.
And he's got the size for it. I'm trying to pull it up here, but I think he weighed in at like 265 pounds or something like that. And that definitely is not. That's a little on the big side for inside linebackers. No, I was wrong. He weighed in at 246, but still.
But I think he was listed around 250 at Oregon or something like that. Yeah.
So, I mean, I liked him, but,
He would
his coverage isn't great.
If you got him in the 6th round, like where we got Desmond Bishop, that's kind of a comp in terms of place, what I would expect. Someone who's going to help plug the run early and then, you send him off the edge kind of thing on later down. He's a better athlete than Desmond was coming out of college. But yeah, that's kind of the play style niche that I see him fitting into in terms of what, if he hits what you would expect him to look like. And, that does mesh well with Quay hitting his hypothetical max because, Quay would be a guy that can play in forward or in reverse at one spot. So, yeah, it kind of just... And like I said, the other angle to look at it from Green Bay's point of view is what do they view Tariq Carpenter as? Is he going to play more safety or is he going to be that nickel linebacker, sub-package linebacker kind of position? Because I think that's going to... Like you said, that'll determine how developmental of a guy they get kind of thing. Or if they're just like, nah, let's just get a guy we're going to have him duke it out with Eric. And because Eric's basically a special teams only player at this point.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're just picking a guy to duke it out with him because he'll be cheaper than him kind of thing. And if he shows any kind of upside, great. And if he doesn't, oh well, we'll pick another guy next year or the year after kind of thing. So, and at least we've got good special teams play kind of thing and stuff. So like Joe said, that would be some place where like Benson could get picked hypothetically. Cause it's like, we'll take a flyer and see, because we do kind of run, on some levels, especially from what LaFleur said at the owners' meetings, where he's expecting to see a lot more cover 2, cover 8 kind of looks going back into this season. So, hypothetically, it would, Benson's history in Iowa's system would curtail well into going into that kind of what LaFleur is envisioning for this year's defense. So, like I said, it's one of those you're just throwing darts at that point, and at very least, it's like, okay, he can do Wilson's job, close to as good, but half the price kind of thing. And that's where this team is at too, cap wise. Is it's like they're looking to save 50 cents on the dollar wherever they can this season and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I think inside linebacker is one of those where we're going to find out a lot about how they feel about certain guys at certain other positions. And things, like I said, like Tariq Carpenter, where they're thinking McDuffie is at, because you'll kind of be able to tell sort of like if they just never pick one kind of thing, or if they do pick one and it's like a Diane Henley or something like that, where it's like, okay, he's a small guy, but he's, he can play in coverage and stuff like that. Or do they pick a Sewell who's more of a thumper kind of thing and stuff? So it's, like I said, it's going to be hard to draw much conclusions from any third day pick, but inside linebacker is one of those where that's kind of where Green Bay has tended to get their guys. So, it is, I don't want to say safe to, but you can draw conclusions from that because that's where they've gotten their guys for the most part.
Well, to kind of piggyback off what you were just saying with Tariq, it's also going to be interesting to see what they do with him, because it might also give you a reflection of what they view of Skinner out of Boise.
Yeah.
Because they're about the same size. I think Tariq maybe is just a little bit heavier, but they're both tall, bigger safety types in college. So if they viewed Carpenter as an inside linebacker now, are they going to view Skinner as a safety, or are they going to view him as an inside linebacker?
Right.
But there's a guy that I kind of thought interesting in the later rounds that could go both ways on that, and that's Dorian Williams out of Tulane. He played linebacker, but if you do, I know on the Raz website, you can plug him into different positions and see how they test it out against other guys. And he actually tested better as a safety than he did as a linebacker. And he had the mobility of a safety. So I think that's a guy that they could take, maybe 6th or 7th round and finally have that guy to be the hybrid that they've been looking for forever. They put Raven Green in there. They put, who was the one they originally did? Sean Richardson in there. Those type of guys that they have the size to be able to do both. And we want that. He could theoretically be that third inside linebacker or that third safety whenever they need him. And, he was a tackling machine. I mean, he hit everything in his path. And so that's a guy that I think that they could draft either way. He could either be a safety or he could be a inside linebacker. So I definitely think he'd be an interesting pickup.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look through my notes. I think that's about it. I got one other guy, and that's the kid out of Utah, but I really wasn't impressed with him. Mohammed Diabrade.
Diabetes.
Yeah, something like that.
No.
So
Me too,
yeah,
me
that's
too.
about all I got. Is there anybody else you guys got that you'd like to talk about?
I'm all good. I'm happy to wrap it up now if you guys are.
Yep.
Cool.
I heard my dog barking, so she's wanting to know where the hell I'm at.
Before we finish up, I believe you have something to plug, Joe.
Yeah, we'll do this better later on, but we've got kind of a new unofficial, official sponsor type guy. It's a good friend of mine. His name's Wes Hoyda. If you guys don't know who Wes is, he's an amazing artist. He does a lot of different pencil drawings. He's been getting into it a lot lately with adding color, but I kind of laugh because he's colorblind, so it's hard for him to actually tell what color is color. But he's done pretty good with everything, and he's this kid's like a brother to me, so I said I would support him with everything that he does with it, and he's agreed to like help us out with the podcast. So you're going to see a little bit of crossover where you're going to see some of our stuff on his website, and as soon as we get a website up, you'll see some of his stuff on our website. But I will put a link to his website in our show notes. So if you have anything that you want done, he does everything. Sports, movies, cartoons. I think the last thing he did that he sent pictures of to me was Mario and Luigi, and they were amazing. So, and he's got a pretty good rep that he's even done stuff for a lot of players. You might have seen him on Twitter once in a while with a player holding like a pencil drawing or whatever, and usually that's Wes's stuff. He's done stuff for Jair Alexander, Kurt Benkert. God, there's a long list of them. I'm having a hard time remembering them all. Devontae, there's a couple, and he's done stuff with like Aaron Rodgers and things like that. So I know I've taken a long time with this. We'll get a little bit better when it comes to our ads, but just go ahead and check him out. Like I said, I'll throw a link up to on our show notes because it is kind of a long website. I think it's like Hoyda Original Artwork.com or something like that. But yeah, I'll get put that in the show notes. Just go ahead and follow him and get something ordered.
Absolutely. And Mike, is there anything for you that you've been writing or working on you want to talk about?
Not so much. No, just like I said, just following a lot of stuff. I'm just we're running. Whenever big news breaks for the Packers, I'll still run spaces on GameOn's Twitter handle. I'll probably be one of the things that we're working on, since we don't really have a website anymore because WordPress is worse than Twitter under Musk. We're looking to do more just like quick vids or kind of like those kind of TikTok-y videos on the Twitter handle and stuff like that. So we'll be doing more of those kind of exposures and stuff. But yep, mostly just spreading my thoughts. And as I say, I have strong opinions, but I don't have any connections to the team. They're just what I think as a fan who's 5,000 miles away from Lambeau.
Well, it's a lot more miles to me, so I feel you there. Well, as always, guys, you can find us on Twitter. You can find Mike at Kawano Mike, myself at Nicholas GRGR, and Joe at Iowa_Joe86, the podcast at Outback_Packers. Until next time, we'll see you later.